Every pope had a favorite dinner, and it wasn't always what you'd expect. From rustic peasant food to royal feasts, here's what history's holiest men really ate. Pope Alexander VII was not just a patron of the arts. He was also a man of refined taste when it came to the dinner table, and nothing brought him more comfort than saltimbocca alla romana. This dish is a delicate assembly of thin veal slices, each one carefully layered with prosciutto and fresh sage leaves, then sautéed in a light bath of white wine and butter. Born in Siena but ruling from Rome, Alexander found in saltimbocca a symbolic marriage of his Tuscan roots with the traditions of the Eternal City. It was not just food to him. It was diplomacy on a plate. The tenderness of the veal, the savouriness of the prosciutto, and the aromatic sage created something deeply elegant, yet humble. It reflected a pope who adored opulence in architecture, but modesty in flavor. He often dined in quiet solitude, a simple silver plate before him, the papal court, hushed out of respect. And as he lifted his fork, he was not merely tasting veal. He was savoring the unity of his past and present, a meal fit not only for a pontiff, but for a man trying to bridge the glory of Rome with the grace of Tuscany. Pope Clement X had a love for tradition, especially when it came wrapped in butter and baked in the oven. His favorite was gnocchi alla romana, a humble dish made not from potatoes, but from semolina flour, milk, and Parmesan cheese. These golden rounds, soft inside and crisp at the edges, were layered into a pan and baked until they bubbled with browned butter. Born in Rome, Clement preferred the local flavors of Lazio over anything exotic. And while his reign was marked by diplomacy and political restraint, his dinner table was where he allowed himself indulgence. Gnocchi alla romana was served hot and silent, the smell of nutmeg and butter warming the grand halls. He often ate alone or with one or two trusted confidants, spooning the tender rounds carefully, as if savoring each bite with the reverence of a prayer. It reminded him that in a world of ambition and ritual, sometimes the best things were the simplest, and sometimes they were baked in semolina. Pope Innocent XI came from Milan, and his palate reflected the north. Simple, sturdy, honest. His most cherished meal was polenta e osse, a regional Lombard dish of creamy cornmeal paired with tiny roasted game birds. The polenta was slow-cooked until thick and smooth, the birds seasoned with herbs and skewered over open flames. It was a dish born of necessity and refined over generations of peasant ingenuity. Innocent was known for his austerity, his rejection of papal luxury, and his deep personal piety. But at dinner, this meal softened him. In a Vatican world obsessed with wealth and spectacle, this dish reminded him of the earth, of his roots, of a life before the mitre and robes. It was rustic, it was humble, it was his. And while his reign demanded strength, his table allowed for warmth. A single bite of Lombardy brought him peace. Pope Alexander VIII was Venetian through and through, and no dish captured the sweet and sour complexity of his city like sarde and saor. Thin sardines, fried until crisp, then layered with caramelized onions, raisins, and vinegar, left to marinate for days until every bite tasted like memory. He would often close his eyes as he chewed, imagining the fog over Venetian canals, the clatter of wooden boats, and the scent of sea and spice. To outsiders, it was peculiar, but to him, it was home. Sarde and saor told a story in every bite. It was the flavor of a republic built on water and trade, of endurance, of invention. It reminded him that faith, like food, was not always about perfection, but about balance. Sharpness with sweetness, stillness with movement, and always, always, the sea. Pope Innocent XII hailed from Apulia, the heel of Italy's boot, where olive groves stretch for miles and people speak with their hands. His favorite dish was orecchiette con cime di rapa, a pasta made in the shape of little ears, tossed with bitter turnip greens, garlic, chili, and anchovies. It was a meal of the land, cheap, nourishing, and unapologetically bitter. Innocent valued simplicity and frugality. He famously banned nepotism and trimmed the extravagances of the papal court. But he still made room for this one comfort: the taste of home. Orecchiette reminded him of his mother's kitchen, where dough was shaped by thumb and dried on white linen in the sun. The greens were picked from rocky fields. It was the taste of his youth and the backbone of his faith, strong, bitter, honest, just like Apulia. Pope Clement XI was born in Urbino, nestled in the hills of central Italy, not far from the rich kitchens of Bologna. And it was from there that his heart and his hunger were drawn to lasagna bolognese, not the quick kind. Clement's papacy was marked by political complexity, but his dinners were moments of clarity. He would sit down with a knife and fork as if they were tools of meditation. Each bite was a journey: meat, cream, tomato, nutmeg, butter. The flavors wrapped him in a warm memory of hearth and home. It was a meal made for long evenings and quiet reflection, a dish that took hours to prepare and even longer to forget. In Rome, his cooks would begin before dawn, rolling dough, chopping onions, and stewing meat to bring Urbino a little closer. Because for Pope Clement XI, lasagna was not just food. It was origin. It was identity. It was love baked into layers and served warm. Pope Innocent XIII came from the rugged hills of central Italy, where lamb was not a luxury, but a rite of passage. His favorite? Abbacchio alla Romana, young spring lamb marinated in garlic, rosemary, and vinegar, then roasted until tender. It was Roman to the core, a dish steeped in centuries of tradition, once served to emperors, now graces the table of a pope. Innocent had a reputation for moderation. It was not about indulgence. It was about memory, about connection to a land that raised both sheep and saints. Abbacchio alla Romana was more than dinner. It was theology, sacrifice, and celebration, mingling in every mouthful. In a world of marble floors and velvet robes, this simple lamb brought him home, back to the hills, the olive trees, and the fire-lit kitchens of his youth. Pope Benedict XIII may have ruled from Rome, but his taste wandered further south, to Sicily. And his favorite meal was pasta alla norma, a rich plate of pasta tossed with fried eggplant, fresh tomato sauce, basil, and crumbles of salted ricotta. Benedict was born in Gravina, near Naples, but he admired the bold flavors of the island. He said this dish reminded him of the people, resilient, creative, expressive. He would often call for it during hot summer evenings when the air hung thick and the Vatican halls felt too quiet. Pasta alla norma brought color and life to his table. It reminded him that faith, like food, should stir the soul. And while the church demanded restraint, his plate told another story of abundance, of poetry, of flavor turned into prayer. For Benedict, this was not just pasta. It was song, served with a spoon. Pope Clement XII was born in Florence, a city where even the leftovers turn into legend. His favorite dish was ribollita, a humble Tuscan soup made from day-old bread, cannellini beans, kale, carrots, onions, and whatever else the week had left behind. But do not let its peasant roots fool you. Ribollita is slow magic. It is cooked once, cooled, then cooked again, reborn through fire and time. Clement admired its frugality, its patience, its quiet strength. It was a dish of the people, yet worthy of a pope. He would have it ladled into a deep clay bowl, steam rising, the scent of garlic and rosemary filling the room. No silver tray, no elaborate garnish, just soup, hearty and honest. He said it tasted like humility and hope. In a church that often wore gold, this was his act of silver simplicity. Each spoonful warmed not just the body, but the memory. It reminded him of rain-soaked fields, of kitchen laughter, of meals that stretched farther than expected. Ribollita was not elegant, but it endured, and that made it holy. Pope Benedict XIV was not only a man of deep intellect, but also of deep culinary appreciation. Born in Bologna, the heartland of rich northern Italian cuisine, It is no surprise his favorite meal was tortellini in brodo. These delicate pasta rings, stuffed with meats and cheese, float in a clear golden broth like sacred relics in a chalice. For Benedict, this dish was more than food. It was comfort from his youth, the warmth of family dinners during a harsh winter, and the elegance of a refined palate shaped by centuries of Bolognese tradition. Tortellini in brodo is not flashy. It is a quiet masterpiece, a blend of patience, skill, and reverence for flavor. Like his papacy, the dish demanded balance, clarity in the broth, restraint in the seasoning, and humility in the presentation. For the man who once quipped that food should nourish both body and soul, there was no better expression than this. In every spoonful, he tasted not just home, but harmony, a reflection of his lifelong pursuit of equilibrium in a church pulling between the old world and the new. It was dinner, served with a whisper of prayer and a full heart. Pope Clement XIII hailed from the beautiful city of Venice, where the ebb and flow of the sea shaped not just the culture, but the cuisine. His favorite dish was risotto al nero di sepia, a striking black rice dish cooked with squid ink. This Venetian specialty is as mysterious as the city itself, with its dark hue and intense, briny flavor. For Clement, this meal was a connection to the waterways and canals of his youth, a taste of the lagoon's bounty that never failed to bring him comfort. The creamy risotto, infused with the depth of the sea, mirrored his papacy's complexity. Sometimes dark, sometimes rich, always layered. It was a dish requiring patience, stirring slowly over gentle heat, much like the steady diplomacy he practiced in his years as pope. Eating it was an experience, a reminder that life and leadership are not always bright and simple, but often rich with shadows and surprises. In the quiet moments of his day, a spoonful of risotto al nero di sepia brought him back to Venice's shimmering waters and the humble beauty of a home-cooked meal. Pope Clement XIV preferred something simpler yet deeply rooted in Italian tradition. Porchetta, the aromatic roast pork that fills tables and hearts alike across central Italy. Born near Rimini, he was no stranger to the robust flavors of the Romagna region. Porchetta, with its crispy skin and herby, tender meat, was a favorite because it embodied the essence of rustic Italian cooking, unpretentious, bold, and satisfying. This dish was often the centerpiece of family celebrations, gatherings where stories flowed as freely as the wine. For Clement, it was a taste of home, a reminder of the warmth and togetherness that food can inspire. The preparation was an art form. Pork seasoned with garlic, rosemary, and fennel, then slow roasted to perfection. It was a meal that required patience, much like his papacy, which balanced tradition with the challenges of the time. Every bite was a celebration of life's simple pleasures, a grounding force amid the weighty decisions of leading the church. Porchetta was comfort, strength, and heritage all rolled into one unforgettable dinner. Pope Pius VI, who guided the church through turbulent times, found solace in saltimbocca alla romana, a Roman dish close to his heart. Hailing from Cesena, he appreciated the simplicity and elegance of this meal. Saltimbocca, meaning jump in the mouth, features tender veal topped with prosciutto and sage, lightly cooked in a buttery sauce. It is a dish of contrasts, soft veal, salty prosciutto, and fragrant herbs, harmonizing in a way that echoed the balance he sought in his leadership. For Pius, it was a dish that connected him to Roman traditions and the rich culinary history of Italy. The preparation was straightforward but required care. Thin slices of veal folded with sage leaves and prosciutto, sautéed quickly to seal in the flavors. This meal represented resilience and grace under pressure, qualities Pius embodied during his lengthy papacy. In the quiet moments after long days, saltimbocca alla romana was more than food. It was a reminder of home, heritage, and the simple joys that sustain even the most demanding of roles. Pope Pius VII favored cappelletti in brodo, a dish that warmed both the body and the soul. Born in Emilia-Romagna, a region known for its rich culinary traditions, he found comfort in these small stuffed pastas served in a delicate broth. The dish required patience and skill to prepare, much like the challenges he faced in guiding the church through turbulent times. Eating it was an act of mindfulness, a moment of quiet amidst the storm. In every spoonful, he tasted not just the flavors of Emilia-Romagna, but also the warmth of tradition and the strength drawn from simple, honest food. Cappelletti in brodo was a meal that grounded him, a gentle reminder of home during a demanding papacy. Pope Leo XII was a man deeply connected to the central Italian regions, and his favorite dish, spaghetti alla carbonara, reflected this connection beautifully. Originating from Rome, this creamy pasta dish made with eggs, cheese, pancetta, and black pepper is simple yet indulgent. For Leo, it was a dish that combined rustic origins with a touch of elegance, much like his own approach to leadership. Spaghetti alla carbonara is a meal that requires careful timing and attention. Too much heat and the eggs scramble, too little and the sauce is not creamy enough. It was a dish that spoke of home, family, and the simple joys of Italian cooking. For Pope Leo XII, spaghetti alla carbonara was not just a meal, but a symbol of harmony and warmth, served with a sprinkle of black pepper and a generous helping of memories. Pope Pius VIII had a refined palate that appreciated the subtleties of Emilia-Romagna cuisine, and his favorite meal was passatelli in brodo. This traditional dish features a unique pasta made from breadcrumbs, Parmesan cheese, eggs, and lemon zest, shaped into small noodles and served in a clear, flavorful broth. Passatelli is humble yet distinctive, a perfect reflection of Pius's character and the simplicity of his brief papacy. Preparing passatelli demands a gentle hand and patience, qualities Pius exemplified in his time as Pope. The meal is nourishing, warm, and filled with tradition, offering a quiet moment of peace amid the weighty responsibilities he bore. Passatelli in brodo was a reminder that even simple ingredients can create something truly special. Pope Gregory XVI was born in Belluno, a mountainous area in northern Italy, and his favorite dish was tagliatelle al ragu. This pasta with rich meat sauce is a staple of northern Italian cuisine, particularly in regions close to Bologna. For Gregory, this hearty and satisfying dish was a symbol of his roots and the robust flavors of his homeland. Tagliatelle al ragu requires slow cooking and careful preparation, as the meat sauce must simmer to develop its deep flavors. This patience and attention to detail mirrored the care Gregory took in his papal duties. The wide, flat pasta provides the perfect canvas to soak up the savory ragu, creating a meal that is both comforting and rich in tradition. For Gregory, enjoying this dish was a way to reconnect with the simple pleasures of home and the nurturing power of a well-cooked meal. Tagliatelle al ragu was more than food. It was a reminder of family, faith, and the enduring strength of his heritage. Pope Pius IX, whose papacy spanned a remarkable 32 years, preferred the humble but hearty minestrone soup. This thick vegetable soup, made from whatever was fresh and available, reflects a simplicity and practicality that suited his character. Born in the Italian region of Marche, Pius appreciated dishes that brought people together around the table, nourishing both body and spirit. Minestrone is a stew of beans, vegetables, and pasta or rice, simmered slowly to blend flavors into a comforting whole. For Pius, this soup was a metaphor for his papacy, a mixture of diverse elements held together by faith and patience. It was a dish of the people, unpretentious yet satisfying, offering warmth and sustenance during difficult times. Minestrone soup connected Pius to the land and its cycles, reminding him of the importance of endurance and humility. Every spoonful was a reminder that from modest ingredients, great strength can be drawn. Pope Leo XIII, known for his progressive ideas and long tenure, favored fettuccine alfredo, a creamy pasta dish beloved in Rome. Originating in the early 20th century, this dish consists of fresh fettuccine, tossed with butter and Parmesan cheese to create a smooth, rich sauce. Eating this dish was a moment of personal pleasure, a brief escape to the lively Roman trattorias where food and friendship mingle. Fettuccine Alfredo, with its velvety texture and gentle flavors, was a favorite not just for its taste but for the warmth it represented, a reminder of home, family, and the joy found in simple moments. For Pope Leo XIII, this meal was a quiet celebration of life's richness and softness amidst challenges. Pope Pius X hailed from Veneto, where the bitter and vibrant radicchio influenced his favorite dish, risotto al radicchio. This risotto blends creamy rice with the slightly bitter radicchio leaves, creating a dish of balanced contrasts, earthy yet bright, rich but fresh. For Pius, it was a taste of home, a reminder of the Veneto's fertile plains and autumn harvests. The dish required slow, careful cooking, stirring the rice patiently as it absorbed the flavors, mirroring his thoughtful and deliberate leadership. Risotto al radicchio is not only comforting, but also sophisticated, embodying the depth and complexity of his papacy. Each bite connected Pius to his roots, the simple joys of family meals, and the vibrant culture of northern Italy. This dish, with its vivid colors and bold flavors, stood as a metaphor for the Pope himself, steadfast, thoughtful, and deeply connected to tradition. Pope Benedict XV grew up near Genoa, a city famed for its fresh basil and pine nuts, and his favorite dish was trofie al pesto. This Ligurian pasta, shaped into little twists, is perfectly suited to hold the rich green basil pesto sauce that defines the region. For Benedict, trofie al pesto was a taste of his coastal childhood, bright, aromatic, and full of Mediterranean sunshine. The preparation of pesto requires care and tradition, grinding basil, garlic, pine nuts, cheese, and olive oil into a fragrant paste. Eating it was a reminder of simpler times, the warmth of family gatherings, and the beauty of regional Italian cooking. The fresh, herbaceous flavors offered a lively contrast to his papal duties, bringing moments of joy and grounding him in his roots. Trofie al pesto captured the essence of Liguria's culinary heritage and the Pope's enduring connection to his homeland. Pope Pius XI, born near Milan, held a deep affection for osso buco alla milanese, a classic northern Italian dish that spoke to both his roots and his temperament. This comforting meal of braised veal shanks, cooked slowly with white wine, aromatic vegetables, and broth, was not just food. It was philosophy on a plate. The veal, becoming irresistibly tender over time, absorbs every nuance of flavor in the pot. Traditionally paired with gremolata, a fresh, sharp mix of lemon zest, garlic, and parsley, the dish delivered a contrast of richness and brightness, much like Pius's approach to balancing firm doctrine with pastoral care. His leadership during politically tense years required patience, resolve, and a sense of history, all qualities mirrored in the slow and deliberate preparation of this Milanese treasure. Ossobuco is not hurried. It is prepared with intention, with every simmer and stir adding depth, a slow dance of flavors that reflects the Pope's own contemplative nature. For him, it was a reminder of hearth and heritage, of time spent around a family table, and of the cultural memory embedded in every bite. In embracing this meal, Pius found warmth, familiarity, and the steady strength of tradition, a dish that resonated with both his papal vision and the soul of Milan. Pope Pius XII was a man of quiet refinement, and nowhere was this more evident than in his favorite dish, fettuccine alla papalina. Born from a chef's attempt to please the Pope's refined tastes, the dish takes a Roman classic and gives it a whisper of elegance. Made with ribbons of fettuccine coated in a delicate sauce of lightly sautéed prosciutto, sweet peas, and a creamy egg base, it is subtle yet indulgent, complex yet restrained. Like the man himself, the dish walks a fine line. Too much richness and the harmony falls apart. Too little and it loses its character. Pius appreciated this balance deeply, as he often found himself navigating intricate church politics and world affairs that demanded poise and subtlety. In this carefully constructed plate, he saw a reflection of the thoughtful precision required in spiritual leadership. The gentle sweetness of peas playing against the salty bite of prosciutto, all wrapped in a velvet coating of cream, made every forkful a small, measured joy. For Pius, fettuccine alla papalina was not just nourishment, it was a ritual, a quiet moment of simplicity amidst grand responsibility. It connected him to Rome's culinary history, while reminding him of the importance of grace under pressure. Pope John XXIII, affectionately known as Good Pope John, was a man rooted in humble beginnings, and his favorite meal echoed that same warmth and sincerity. Born in Bergamo, a northern Italian town nestled in the foothills of the Alps, he often craved the rustic comfort of polenta with caseola. This dish, made of creamy, slow-stirred cornmeal paired with a savory stew of cabbage and assorted pork cuts, was deeply connected to his childhood and the traditions of his people. Caseola is a dish born of frugality and heart, using less prized parts of the pig, ribs, sausages, even trotters, slow-cooked until meltingly tender. The cabbage, stewed alongside the meat, soaks in all the richness, turning every spoonful into a bite of home. For John, this was more than sustenance. It was a symbol of resilience and generosity. During his papacy, known for its warmth and human touch, he often invoked the virtues of ordinary people. In this meal, there is no pretense, only nourishment and shared history. It reminds us that comfort and community often come not from extravagance, but from dishes passed down through generations. In polenta with cassoulet, John found a tangible link to his roots, his family, and his unwavering belief in the power of simple kindness. Pope Paul VI held a special affection for risotto alla Milanese, a dish that not only delighted his palate, but also rooted him deeply in his Lombard heritage. The risotto's golden hue comes from saffron, an ingredient prized not just for its color, but for its subtle floral aroma and earthy undertones. Cooked slowly with care, this Milanese specialty transforms simple rice and broth into a velvety, luxurious dish. Paul appreciated that it demanded patience. Each ladle of broth added slowly, each stir deliberate, until the grains achieved the perfect creamy consistency. It was a dish that didn't shout, but spoke with quiet elegance, much like Paul's own papal style. Frequently served alongside ossobuco, risotto alla Milanese is a mainstay in northern Italian cuisine, embodying the richness of tradition without excess. For Paul, this dish was comfort. It recalled family dinners, the sense of home kitchens, and the enduring spirit of Milan. Amid the burdens of church leadership during a period of major transition and reform, this risotto offered a reminder of continuity and calm. It was not just food, it was memory, identity, and a moment of pause in a life filled with solemn responsibilities. With every forkful, Paul reconnected with the flavors of his past and the soul of his homeland. Pope John Paul I, affectionately remembered for his warmth and humility, had a favorite meal that perfectly reflected his modest roots: bacala alla vicentina. Originating from the Veneto region, this traditional dish transforms salted cod into something deeply comforting. It is simmered slowly with onions, anchovies, olive oil, and milk, allowing time and patience to soften the fish into a luscious, almost buttery texture. For John Paul, who hailed from the Venetian countryside, this meal was a direct link to the frugal, hard-working families of his youth, where nothing went to waste and every ingredient had meaning. Bacala alla Vicentina is not fast food. It's a dish that asks for your attention, your care, and your time, just as he gave to his brief but impactful papacy. The slow cooking process brings out layered flavors: salty, savory, mellow, and deeply satisfying. It embodies the resourcefulness of a culture that could turn preservation into art. Even as Pope, he never forgot the simplicity and soulfulness of his upbringing. In bacala, he found nourishment for both body and spirit. It reminded him that even the humblest dish can hold history, love, and a quiet dignity, a reflection of the man he was and the legacy he left behind. Pope John Paul II carried with him a deep love for his native Poland, and no dish symbolized that love more sweetly than kremówka papieska, a delicate cream cake that became legendary in its own right. Composed of airy layers of puff pastry filled with silky vanilla custard and topped with powdered sugar, this dessert is light in structure but heavy with nostalgia. For John Paul, Kremovka wasn't just a treat, it was a memory. It conjured up the cobbled streets of Wadowitz, his boyhood town, and the warmth of family gatherings after mass or school events. He once recounted with a gentle smile how he and his friends would eat several of these cakes in a single sitting after exams. The simplicity of Kremovka belies its emotional richness. Its tender pastry and velvety cream are a metaphor for the gentleness and strength that defined his papacy. Even in the grandeur of the Vatican, this humble Polish dessert served as a tether to his homeland, a taste of childhood, of faith forged in hardship, and of joy found in the smallest pleasures. Kremovka Papieska became a national symbol, just like the man who loved it. Pope Benedict XVI from Bavaria had a favorite dish reflecting his German roots, Bavarian potato ravioli. This hearty meal combines tender potato-filled pasta with rich butter and cheese, a comforting dish from the Alpine region. For Benedict, it was a reminder of home's warmth and the simple joys of Bavarian cooking. The potato ravioli requires care to prepare, with dough rolled thin and filled generously, creating a satisfying, filling meal. The dish's rustic character suited Benedict's thoughtful and scholarly personality, offering sustenance during his busy days. It also reflects Bavaria's culinary heritage, where potatoes are a staple and meals are hearty and filling. Eating Bavarian potato ravioli connected Benedict to his cultural roots and family traditions, grounding him amid the demands of his papacy. This humble yet rich dish served as a quiet celebration of heritage and comfort. Pope Francis, the first pope from the Americas, has a favorite dish deeply rooted in his Argentine heritage: empanadas. These savory pastries, filled with seasoned meat, onions, olives, and spices, are a staple of Argentine cuisine and culture. For Francis, empanadas represent more than just food. They are a symbol of community and sharing, often enjoyed at family gatherings and celebrations. The flaky, golden crust encases a flavorful filling that varies by region but always reflects the warmth and generosity of Argentine home cooking. Empanadas are portable and humble, much like Francis's approach to the papacy, emphasizing simplicity, compassion, and closeness to the people. Preparing empanadas involves careful folding and pinching of the dough, a practice passed down through generations, echoing the importance of tradition and care in Francis's life and work. Eating empanadas brings him a connection to Buenos Aires, his upbringing, and the vibrant culture of Latin America. This beloved dish perfectly captures the Pope's down-to-earth spirit and his commitment to nourishing both body and soul. Who said the Pope doesn't eat well? Prayerful pasta primavera salad was one of these newcomers, combining tender pasta with fresh, crisp vegetables like bell peppers, cherry tomatoes, and zucchini. Tossed in a zesty Italian vinaigrette, this cold salad brought vibrant colors and refreshing flavors to any gathering, offering a welcome reprieve from heavier dishes. This salad excelled in versatility and practicality. It could be prepared a day ahead, allowing the flavors to meld together beautifully. And it traveled well, perfect for outdoor church picnics. The recipe was also flexible. Any combination of vegetables could be used, depending on what was in season or on hand. Even picky eaters could find something to enjoy in its customizable mix. Add a sprinkle of Parmesan, and it could easily transition from a simple side dish to a more filling option. So why has it become a rarity? As pre-packaged pasta salads and pre-made dressings became widely available, the labor of chopping fresh vegetables and mixing homemade vinaigrettes seemed less appealing. Modern convenience overshadowed the care that went into making this dish. Cucumber canapés, on the other hand, are something else entirely. This time around, you can definitely tell where they came from. Just a quick look at their history will point you right to 18th century France, where a canapé was the new trend in town. Fast forward just a little bit to when the first French and European immigrants started coming around to America, and you'll figure out that they actually brought this recipe over with them. Why was this something that did well, though? If you've ever heard of the 1960s, you'll hear the phrase health consciousness thrown around a lot. There was a good reason for that too, but the seeds of all the vegetable-heavy dieting shifts of the later decades were sown during this time. there was a small but progressively louder community of concerned parents and doctors who were voicing their opinions. They firmly believed American diets were bad, just flat out bad for you. The best thing to do then was to eat greener. And what says green and clean like a cucumber? Okay, corny metaphors aside, it really did help make a gradual and daily shift towards better eating habits. A canapé itself was just a series of small bites with lots of different bread and cracker toppings, but this puff pastry ended up being just what people needed. Few dishes from the 1970s could walk the line between savory and sweet quite like this one. Sweet potato soufflé did just that. It was a culinary bridge between vegetables and dessert. With its cloud-like texture, cinnamon-kissed sweetness, and the signature marshmallow topping, it offered both comfort and spectacle at every church potluck or holiday gathering. The dish has deep roots in Southern cooking, where sweet potatoes have been a staple for centuries. During the mid-20th century, this recipe gained widespread popularity as canned goods and convenience foods became kitchen staples. Marshmallows, introduced in the late 1800s and heavily marketed in the 20th century, were the final flourish, a whimsical, sugary topping that turned a simple casserole into a crowd pleaser. Yet, as tastes evolved, the soufflé began to fade from weekly menus. The sugar-heavy marshmallow layer clashed with growing concerns about healthier eating. Sweet potatoes themselves survived the shift, reborn as fries, chips, and roasted sides. But the soufflé, with its unapologetic decadence, became relegated to holiday tables and church cookbook archives. Fresh, vibrant, and undeniably wholesome, fellowship fruit kebabs were a beacon of color on church picnic tables. In an era when gelatin molds and mayonnaise-based salads reigned supreme, these skewers offered a refreshing alternative. Simple yet elegant, they featured a variety of seasonal fruits: pineapple, melon, grapes, and berries, artfully arranged on sticks and drizzled with a honey-lime glaze. The practicality of fruit kebabs was one of their biggest selling points. Easy to assemble, they required no utensils, making them a perfect grab-and-go option for outdoor gatherings. Plus, their versatility made them universally appealing. Whether you preferred tropical fruit, classic apple chunks, or a mix of whatever was on sale, the recipe adapted to suit any budget or taste. Add in the bright, tangy kick of honey and lime, and you had a snack that balanced natural sweetness with a touch of zest. So, what caused this recipe to slip into obscurity? Partly, the rise of pre-cut fruit platters took away the need for the extra effort. Additionally, the modern obsession with charcuterie boards and grazing tables overshadowed the humble kebab. In the 1980s and 1990s, lighter, vegetable-forward dishes began making their way onto picnic tables as health-conscious trends gained momentum. Spaghetti pie casserole is probably one of the first instances we have of fusion food overtaking common American interests. While it doesn't really have a well-documented starting point in history like some other burgers and loaves do, it is pretty interesting to see the kind of pipeline this place has taken. The casserole craze in the middle of the 20th century reflected the broader interest of Americans dipping their toes into foreign cuisines, especially whatever the French and Italians had cooked up. Something about their kitchens was irresistible to most people. People seem to believe that this dish got its inspiration from lasagna and baked ziti, which I can't lie makes sense. Both of those have been a big part of Italian-American culture for ages now, and spaghetti, despite not being typical in Italy, has become a really popular choice for American homes. A spaghetti pie itself was purely a home chef classic, though, and it was thanks to how available processed ingredients were becoming. Now that you could just buy pre-made crusts and spaghetti packets, a lot of the work that people associated with it before just went up in the air. You may not believe this, but it was actually easy to prepare for this. The 1970s were a golden age for layered desserts, and few could compete with the indulgent simplicity of a dessert built on butterscotch pudding, whipped topping, and a graham cracker crust. This was the era of quick-fix elegance, when convenience foods met the creativity of home cooks determined to make something memorable. Blessed Butterscotch Delight was a perfect example. Rich, creamy, and easy to assemble, it became a favorite at church potlucks and family gatherings. The popularity of butterscotch pudding soared during the mid-20th century, largely thanks to its warm, caramel-like flavor and versatility. Paired with graham crackers, which were already a pantry staple, and whipped topping, a revolutionary product that simplified dessert making, it was a dessert that anyone could whip up with minimal effort. And let's not forget the charm of its layered presentation, which made it feel just fancy enough to stand out on a crowded dessert table. So, why did it fade away? By the 1990s, pre-made desserts and lighter options had taken over. The heavy reliance on processed ingredients didn't help, as health trends began favoring fresh fruits and whole grains over pudding mixes and whipped toppings. In the world of potlucks and church picnics, the holy hoagie dip was the kind of dish that sparked curiosity and kept people coming back for seconds. Inspired by the classic Italian hoagie, this creamy dip combined diced deli meats like salami and ham, provolone cheese, crisp lettuce, tomatoes, onions, and zesty Italian dressing, all folded into a creamy mayonnaise base. Served with toasted baguette slices or crackers, it was essentially a hoagie deconstructed and ready to share. No messy sandwiches required. The dip's rise in popularity during the late 20th century mirrored America's love for Italian-inspired cuisine and the growing trend of turning traditional dishes into crowd-friendly dips. Its versatility made it a potluck superstar. Adjust the meats, toss in some hot peppers for spice, or lighten it up with low-fat ingredients. The options were endless. Plus, its no-cook preparation meant less time in the kitchen and more time enjoying the gathering. So why did it fade into obscurity? Part of the decline can be attributed to a cultural shift toward lighter, healthier fare. The cream-based dips of yesteryear gave way to hummus and veggie platters. Southern Soul chili is pretty much exactly what you'd expect that to taste like. You put the words Southern Soul and chili together, and you paint a pretty colorful picture of the Southwest and Texas potlucks. The evolution of this dish is actually pretty closely rooted in Native American, Mexican, and Spanish cultures, though. Over time, it's begun to involve all kinds of things, like beef and chili peppers and even tomatoes and beans. The beans were a pretty new addition, because it wasn't until the Depression that people began to use pinto beans and kidney beans. Even black-eyed beans were things that people took to a lot. Southern soul chili in general was a unique spin that drew a lot of its style from soul food staples and a lot of its flavors from Southern cuisine. You had the chili and the focus on natural ingredients, which was something you'd get from soul food. Still, the smoked meats and sweet potatoes were unmistakable. That was a Southern classic if I've ever seen one. Where else do you see that much smoked brisket being used? Or that much pulled pork? Either way, this makes for one really explosive chili, so try it at your own risk. During an era when convenience reigned supreme, few desserts captured the hearts of church potlucks quite like a no-bake peanut butter pie. With its creamy, sweet peanut butter filling nestled inside a graham cracker crust, Pius peanut butter pie became a symbol of simplicity and indulgence. It was rich, satisfying, and best of all, didn't require turning on the oven, a blessing for busy cooks and warm kitchens. The origins of this dessert lie in the mid-century love affair with peanut butter, which soared in popularity thanks to its affordability and versatility. Pairing it with sweetened condensed milk and whipped topping, staples of the time, turned humble ingredients into a decadent treat. The graham cracker crust, first popularized in the 1930s, added a buttery crunch that balanced the pie's smooth filling. It was practical, easy to assemble, and required little more than a refrigerator to set. Yet, as dessert trends evolved, this pie began to fade from favor. The rise of more elaborate, multi-layered confections and a push toward healthier eating made its rich, calorie-dense filling seem out of step with modern tastes. Swiss steak is definitely something that was mostly a traditional 20th century concept, though. It was pretty common for the working class almost everywhere to rely on potlucks. Who could blame them? You find something that ticks most boxes, or in some cases, all of them. You keep it close. Everyone does that. Don't you have your comfort fast food places you swear by and always go to when you need an order you can rely on? Swiss steak was pretty much just like that, and it was the first time that people got to know about Swissing meat. That's, by the way, where it gets the name from, not any cultural ties to Switzerland. Lots of people were relying on tough cuts of meat that weren't really the same kind of quality, but they were a lot more affordable. People figured that some pork is better than no pork, and again, could you fault them? Still, these kinds of recipes needed a lot of work to really make them shine and not just be a slogfest you have to chew your way through. Swissing the meat and slow cooking it potluck style made sure that it would be soft and tender, and in the end, you'd get a pretty wonderful saucy stew. In the mid-20th century, when creativity in the kitchen often stemmed from necessity, benevolent Bologna cups made their debut as an ingenious way to stretch humble ingredients into a crowd-pleasing dish. A simple slice of bologna, baked into a cup shape in a muffin tin, became the perfect edible vessel for mashed potatoes, macaroni salad, or even coleslaw. This dish was both playful and practical, a combination that fit perfectly with the spirit of community potlucks and church picnics. The versatility of Bologna cups was their standout feature. They could be filled with just about anything, making them adaptable to whatever leftovers or budget-friendly ingredients were on hand. They were also easy to portion and serve, making them ideal for large gatherings. And let's not forget their visual appeal. Seeing rows of neatly filled Bologna cups on a table added a touch of whimsy to any spread. So, what led to their decline? Over time, Bologna itself fell out of favor as food trends shifted toward fresher, less processed ingredients. The rise of more elaborate appetizers and finger foods also nudged this humble dish aside. Few desserts carry the warmth of tradition quite like a baked custard rice pudding. Reverent rice pudding was a staple at church gatherings, offering creamy comfort with a touch of cinnamon spice and the sweetness of raisins. It was the kind of dish that felt like home, evoking memories of simpler times when nothing in the pantry went to waste. Rice pudding's history stretches back centuries, with variations found in nearly every culture that had access to rice and milk. In the United States, it gained popularity during the 19th century, when rice became widely available and recipes emphasized frugality. By the 1970s, baked versions with eggs, milk, and sugar added a custardy richness, while cinnamon and raisins gave it a warm, familiar flavor. It was versatile, too, served as a dessert, a snack, or even a breakfast dish. But as dessert trends shifted in the late 20th century, rice pudding began to fade. Its humble simplicity couldn't compete with the rise of more decadent sweets like chocolate lava cakes or the colorful allure of gelatin desserts. The time-intensive baking process also made it less appealing in an era of quick fixes. Ewing Steele's orange rolls are a wholesome little pit stop in Southern and Midwestern cooking. They're fluffy, sweet, and just about the opposite of everything you've come to expect so far on this list. The dish itself refers to a pretty specific variant that got popular throughout the South. Ewing Steele himself is known for making these. I mean, it's in the name. But the rolls themselves represented a lot. They had typical American baking traditions such as puff pastries and buttery rolls, but they mixed that in with oranges, sweet tastes, and really comforting textures. That was common in Southern desserts, so it was a blend of both points of American cooking. Now, while people believe that Ewing Steele made it, they aren't sure, because there's no documented recipe or cookbook that shows us a process of him developing the dish. All we know is that it first popped up in the South, and then it popped up at everyone's potlucks. Those bright citrus flavors were the perfect thing to bring to a potluck. In the post-war era, when convenience foods were revolutionizing the American kitchen, Angel's ambrosia pie emerged as a sweet symbol of the times. This chilled, no-bake dessert combined fruit cocktail, shredded coconut, and marshmallows folded into a creamy base, all nestled in a graham cracker crust. It was inspired by ambrosia salad, a classic Southern dish with roots in 19th century holiday traditions. But here, it was given a modern twist, easy to prepare and perfect for the church potluck circuit. Practicality was one of the pie's greatest strengths. With canned fruit cocktail and pre-made crusts widely available, the ingredients were budget-friendly and accessible. The recipe required no cooking, making it an ideal choice for busy homemakers balancing everything from Sunday school prep to feeding a family. Its versatility was another draw. The filling could be adjusted with fresh fruits, whipped cream, or even a splash of fruit juice to suit personal preferences. So, why did this dessert lose its spot on the picnic table? As palates evolved and fresh ingredients became more accessible, dishes relying on canned and processed components fell out of favor. In the heyday of retro desserts, charity cherry salad was a shining star at potlucks and family gatherings. This chilled dish combined bright maraschino cherries, velvety cream cheese, and fluffy whipped topping, creating a dessert that was as vibrant as it was indulgent. Served in elegant glass bowls or set in decorative molds, it added a touch of flair to any church supper table. The popularity of dishes like this can be traced back to the mid-20th century, when refrigeration revolutionized home cooking. Desserts that could be prepared ahead of time and served cold became the ultimate convenience for busy homemakers. Maraschino cherries, first commercialized in the early 1900s, were a pantry favorite thanks to their long shelf life and striking red color. Blending them with cream cheese and whipped topping was a clever way to create a dessert that felt rich but remained affordable. Despite its charm, charity cherry salad fell out of fashion as modern palates shifted away from overly sweet processed ingredients. The rise of fresh fruit salads and lighter desserts in the late 20th century further sealed its fate. Italian hot dishes, on the other hand, are a Minnesota classic. You couldn't go a day in the streets of the upper Midwest without being dazzled by all the different kinds of fragrances. By strong, alluring scents, I really just mean everyone's and their grandma's different takes on a hot dish. It was a tradition that came during the rise of casseroles in the 1950s, and it was something that became a pantry staple at one point. Casseroles were sort of the thing to eat back then because you could just get everything done with them. They became one of the most popular meals to make for home chefs because there wasn't a dinner where somebody would pout and go like, "Aw, casserole?" Even if it wasn't a lot each and every time, people still got visibly excited seeing mom pop out of the kitchen with some casserole. Italian hot dishes especially were something to celebrate because it meant she was really going all out for the occasion. Despite this dish not really having much Italian history, it caught the name because it uses a lot of Italian staples. You have your tomato sauces, your pasta, and of course the freshest kind of cheese you could find. If anything, it definitely has Italian stereotypes. In the mid-1900s, elegance and practicality often found their way onto the same plate, especially at church picnics and social gatherings. Righteous ribbon sandwiches were a shining example of this fusion, a visually striking, multi-layered finger sandwich that was as much a feast for the eyes as it was for the stomach. These sandwiches combined cream cheese, thinly sliced cucumbers, and pimento spread, layered between vibrant slices of white and rye bread. The name may have sounded fancy, but the recipe was delightfully simple, showcasing the resourcefulness of home cooks. Ribbon sandwiches were the epitome of versatility. They could be made in advance, sliced into perfect little portions, and adapted to suit almost any flavor profile. Need a vegetarian option? No problem. Add more vegetables. Want something heartier? Swap in a layer of ham or chicken salad. Their small size made them easy to serve and eat, ensuring that no one risked losing their sandwich during a spirited game of horseshoes. So, why don't we see them anymore? As trends shifted toward more casual grab-and-go fare, the labor-intensive ribbon sandwiches slowly fell out of favor. Spanakopita, on the other hand, is a traditionally Greek dish. This is a savory pie, and it makes a lot of use of some ingredients you don't typically see as the main stars of the show in America. You have parsley, dill, and spinach as far as herbs and greens go, and feta cheese. Top it off with some caramelized onions, and you're good to go. By far, though, the most interesting thing people use here is phyllo dough. This dough was pretty much the trademark of the pie itself in Greece. It gave the pie a really unique and buttery taste that made it stand out in comparison to the fluffier, heavier doughs that people were using at the time. Traditional pizza dough, for example, was a lot less delicate. You could say that people began to think of fusing spanakopita, which was a really niche dish, by the way, with pizza thanks to the fusion food trends that were going around back then. I think this comes from Mediterranean cuisine, since it has a lot of those flavors. The flaky dough and the use of olive oil to butter it make this a much more interesting pizza than what you would typically expect. The cheese log, simple yet sophisticated, was a centerpiece of 1970s entertaining, and the chapel cheese log was a classic example of its enduring charm. A blend of cream cheese, shredded cheddar, and seasonings rolled in crushed nuts, this dish was as much about presentation as it was about flavor. Paired with crackers, it graced countless church potlucks and holiday spreads, offering a bite-sized burst of creamy, nutty indulgence. The origins of the cheese log can be traced back to mid-century culinary trends, when convenience and elegance often went hand in hand. Cheese logs became a staple in the 1960s and 70s, popularized by their ease of preparation and adaptability. Home cooks could mix in herbs, spices, or even dried fruit to suit their tastes, making it versatile for various occasions. Its cylindrical shape and nutty coating also made it easy to transport, a key factor for church gatherings. So why did this once celebrated appetizer fall out of favor? As the 1980s ushered in fancier hors d'oeuvres and international cuisines, the humble cheese log started to feel a bit dated. Prepackaged cheese spreads also gained popularity, offering a more convenient alternative. In the days of church picnics, where hearty casseroles and fried chicken often took center stage, divine dill cucumber salad offered a light, refreshing contrast. This dish, made with thinly sliced cucumbers coated in a tangy blend of vinegar, sour cream, and fresh dill, was a staple in the mid-20th century. It reflected a shift toward incorporating fresh produce into meals, particularly during the warmer months when cucumbers were plentiful in backyard gardens. Practicality was one of its strongest virtues. The ingredients were inexpensive and easy to find, and the dish required no cooking, making it a breeze to prepare for a crowd. It also held up well in the heat, a critical feature for outdoor gatherings. Its versatility meant it could be served as a side dish, a palate cleanser, or even as part of a sandwich filling. Despite its appeal, this crisp and creamy salad eventually fell out of favor. As more elaborate salads and pre-packaged options gained popularity, simpler recipes like this one began to feel outdated. Additionally, the growing focus on global cuisine brought bolder flavors to the forefront, leaving dill cucumber salad in the shadows. Cheese, sausage, and croissant strata is this really comforting brunch dish that actually works amazingly for potlucks. It works because it's the perfect little starter to bring to a party. Most people already know who's going to be bringing what, and there are designated people who bring the really heavy-hitter dishes. That leaves people who really need to nail the sides, appetizers, and desserts. For them, this dish was literally a no-compromise sort of thing. It was absolutely impossible to have a potluck without somebody bringing over a croissant strata, especially if you lived in the openly French neighborhoods. Sorry, by that I mean the ones who would cook nothing else but French food. Strata has lots of layers, especially in Italy, where they take the attention to detail super seriously. Traditional strata recipes make use of sliced bread, baguettes, croissants, and all kinds of other things. This dish was experimented with a lot while it was becoming a big thing in America, so you had people all over the country doing their own version of a strata. Lots of people played around with the kinds of cheeses you could use, or they would switch out the sausages for some other meat. Either way, it was a wonderful little bread-based dish to serve as a filler until the next big meal. In the culinary playbook of the 1970s, green beans weren't just a side dish. They were often dressed to impress. Graceful green bean bundles wrapped in smoky bacon and glazed with brown sugar offered an elegant upgrade to the humble vegetable. With their sweet and savory allure, these bundles quickly became a favorite at church potlucks and holiday dinners. The dish's appeal lay in its balance of practicality and flair. Green beans were an accessible and affordable vegetable, while bacon and brown sugar transformed them into something festive. The bundles were easy to assemble and bake, making them a convenient choice for busy cooks. They also served dual purposes. They worked as both a side dish and an appetizer, seamlessly bridging the gap between finger food and a plated meal. By the late 20th century, however, changing tastes and dietary trends began to edge these bundles off the table. The combination of bacon and sugar, once seen as indulgent, started to feel overly rich for everyday fare. Health-conscious cooking also played a role, as lighter vegetable dishes gained popularity. Mid-century America loved a dish that could pull double duty, easy to prepare and satisfying enough to feed a crowd. Picnic pea salad supreme fit the bill perfectly. This chilled salad, made with sweet green peas, crispy bacon, shredded cheddar, and a creamy dressing, was a real statement. In an era when canned and frozen vegetables were kitchen staples, this salad offered a way to transform humble peas into something extraordinary. It became a picnic regular, especially in the Midwest, where hearty and easy-to-make recipes reigned supreme. What made this dish so practical was its adaptability. The ingredients were pantry-friendly, the preparation was straightforward, and it held up well outdoors. No one likes a salad that wilts before the blessing. Its sweet and savory flavors appealed to kids and adults alike, and its vibrant colors made it visually appealing on any potluck table. Plus, bacon and cheddar, arguably the ultimate crowd-pleasing duo, did a lot of the heavy lifting. So, what happened? Well, somewhere along the line, supreme salads lost their shine. Health-conscious trends and the rise of pre-made options nudged recipes like this into obscurity. Comment down below which food you want to eat, and don't forget to like and subscribe.